As you probably know from my previous videos, I've significantly modified my Honda Transalp 750, and one of the most important upgrades which I did to this bike was the suspension. The Transalp 750 suspension was upgraded with the help of the company SESTAMARCIA. They prepared for me the suspension upgrade. They prepared for me the front suspension, the rear suspension. The front actually was assembled in Italy by SESTAMARCIA and sent me back. I've mounted the suspension, and I promised you that I come back with an explanation video, with a more detailed video, where we're gonna check out the suspension features. We're gonna see how the suspension is adjustable, or how to adjust the suspension. So it's time for a more detailed video regarding the suspension upgrade, which I did with the help of the guys from SESTAMARCIA. I've already tested the suspension a couple of times, and yeah, the feedback I need to provide you, the first feedback I've already provided to you in the video, which I'm gonna put in the video description. But now it's time to test it more and more. I had the chance to test it last week's. Even today I'm planning another ride because the weather it's just perfect at the mid of October. So I will be able to test one more time the suspension and give you a live feedback. So yes, I'm not a suspension specialist. I never had the experience of full adjustable suspension so far. This is the first time. I'm not a suspension specialist. I'm just a beginner rider. I'm learning every day. So now I'm also learning how to adjust properly my suspension. The suspension was already adjusted according to my weight and my riding purpose. I told SESTAMARCIA that I'm planning to ride more off-roads. I told them my weight, so they adjusted the suspension accordingly. But of course you can adjust, and I will adjust the suspension if I find it necessary to adjust it. How to adjust it, I don't know. I'm learning. So I have here all the manuals. One manual is from Andreani, owner's manual, and with this manual we're gonna check it out and see what are the steps in adjusting suspension like that. This is a racing suspension, by the way. And of course we have from Öhlins, this is all-in shock absorber owner's manual. So we have the owner's manual provided in the package receipt from SESTAMARCIA. So we're gonna take a look at the owner's manual. We're gonna explain you, and I'm gonna learn together with you, because as mentioned before, I'm not a specialist. I'm not a suspension professional. I'm not even a professional rider, but I'm just a casual rider. I just want to have the best out of the best I can get from the bike. And of course as we all know, the skill is everything. So no matter what suspension you're gonna have, if you don't have the necessary skill to ride the bike, then it will not make any sense. Usually the bikes, the adventure bikes, and most of the bikes are coming with a very soft suspension. Let's face it, I've ridden the Transalp. Originally had quite a soft suspension. The suspension, it's set up for someone who has about 80 kilos, not more. So if you're having more than 80 kilos, 85 kilos, you might have a problem with the soft suspension from the standard bikes. No matter the bike, even the Africa Twin, even the Transalp, maybe the V-Strom 800 DE had a better suspension as a standard from most of the latest adventure bikes. But the other ones, even the NX 500, they have a pretty soft suspension. So if you are more than 80 kilos, you will find the suspension very soft. The same happened with this suspension. I had 85 kilos plus equipment. I say about 95 kilos in total, maybe 100 plus gear in the rear, maybe a cargo bag. So the standard suspension, especially the front, it was not so soft, and it was very bad at rebound. It gave a lot of feedback in the handlebars, even in the road, even on road. On road, it was quite a challenge riding in the roads of our country, which are not perfect. So the bike was a little bit bumpy, no matter the settings. You have only the preload as a standard, and the rear was quite hard off-road. It was actually, the problem was that it was very difficult to find the right balance between on-road and off-road riding, only with a preload adjustment. So we're speaking about now about a full adjustable suspension, which will give us a more flexibility on riding both or riding multiple surfaces. This is the advantage which I see. It's not about riding fast or riding as a professional, although you can do that with this bike if you have proper skills. It's about making a better flexible bike and a flexible adjustment to be able to ride on multiple surfaces. Let's start first with the Andreani Misano cartridge. This is the racing version. We have the owner's manual. This suspension has about 230 millimeters suspension travel. We can see here the code. The code it's 125H08. This is the code from the Andreani cartridge. We have some data here provided in this paper. Also the oil, SAE 1330. We have the middle course Interasse 862 millimeters. The total travel 215 millimeters. The useful travel 198 millimeters. And we have actually the usage travel, which is 228 millimeters to be precise. We have here the installation instructions provided by Andreani. This is a racing product. They claim that race use only. This is officially, but the instructions are very clear with pictures. You find them also on a PDF, much more visible, and this is the paper. We can check it out for a bit. In photo 1 we have to unscrew the top cap from the outer tube, then to pour out the oil from the fork. This is picture 1 and picture 2. Then we need to unscrew and take off the original cartridge. On picture number 3, insert the Andreani cartridge. Picture number 4. Then what we have to do is to tighten the Andreani Rally cartridge at 20 Newton millimeters. This is picture number 5. Then we insert the spring, as we can see in picture number 6. Then comes picture number 7, when we need to fill the fork with recommended suspension oil. So we need to verify the oil level in millimeters with the indicated air chamber as per spec sheet. They tell you what should the oil level should be, because we have here the spec sheet over here, and we can check it out. Then we need to insert the metal spring spacer with the PVC ring facing the bottom, as seen in the picture number 9. Then we have to block the cartridge with a 19mm Allen key on the counter bolt that holds the cartridge shaft. This we can see in the picture number 10. Then in picture number 11 we need to adjust the cap hydraulic adjuster face with 4 full turns, as seen in the picture 11, and then remount the cap on the cartridge shaft, tightening it at 20 Newton per millimeter. This is very specific. You have the pictures, you have the instructions, and then the last but not least is screw in the cap on the outer tube. Basically this is it. You need to mount it. So in terms of adjustments, with this big bolt we can adjust the preload. Then we have the compression on the right side we can adjust the compression on the right side. You can see here it's written comp from compression, and on the left side we can adjust the rebound. Of course, we have the preload and the rebound. It's on the left side, so it's pretty simple. This is the racing version of the Andreani cartridge, rally cartridge, and it's pretty simple. This was already adjusted by Marco from SESTAMARCIA. It was amazingly adjusted, considering that the bike is very balanced, as mentioned in the previous test ride video. We're gonna give it another shot and provide you more details about how the suspension reacts to different surfaces. As I said, I'm not a professional suspension adjuster, so to speak. I'm learning step by step how to do it. Right now the suspension feels very good for me. The bike is very stable. I get basically not so much feedback in the handlebar. The bike, it's pretty stable at very high speeds off-road, and I feel very comfortable. It gives me a lot of confidence. It takes most of the track, most of the bumps, it takes it pretty good. But of course, at some point, depending on the surface I'm riding, and with time, hopefully with my skill, with my riding skill increased in the next months, perhaps I'm gonna feel the need to readjust the suspension or to make some fine tuning. So I need to learn how to do it. I've watched some of the tutorials from YouTube. One of them was very good in terms of suspension adjustment. I will place a link in the description and in the video comments, because I found it very professional, done by a guy from Norway, if I'm not mistaken, or Sweden. So this is the owner's manual, and we're gonna take it step by step to see from a beginner perspective, from a guy who just received this suspension as you know, already to be ridden, so out of the box, adjusted but out of the box. Let's see from my perspective what are the steps in order to adjust the suspension, or in order to understand the bike's feedback, and in order to understand what type of adjustment needs to be done when you're riding off-road. What you need to understand is that you need to read everything starting from the beginning. You have some warnings, and you need to understand that suspension is a fundamental for motorcycle safety and can affect stability. So you need to be very careful when you adjust the suspension. You need to do it you know, you need to learn how to do it. This is the thing. If you're not aware, or if you're not like me, if you're not at least you don't inform yourself how to do it, it's better to go to a mechanic, a specialized mechanic, and make it for you. And of course, you need to take care and need to find, if you find poor stability, or in case of doubt, immediately stop the motorcycle and contact an authorized service. So these are the warnings, usual warnings which you get on this manual, and it's better to keep in mind. Of course, you need to check eventual oil leaks before you even ride. You need to make these pre-checks of the bike, the brakes, the levers, and in terms of suspension, you need to check any eventual oil leaks which may occur. So it's better to check it before and not find yourself on a deserted place, on a off-road remote area, and because you don't have too many options over there. So before I even continue, I want just to repeat myself that I'm not a professional. Don't do what I say, or don't take my word. Just inform yourself. I'm just a beginner rider. I'm just a beginner in terms of suspension adjustment. I'm just reading from the manual, and I try to understand the principles or to understand the mechanisms of suspension, how the suspension is working and how the suspension should be adjusted. So keep in mind that, and let's follow this this tutorial, or let's continue this tutorial and see what the manual has to tell us. So in general, when you have a full adjustable suspension, there are two types of adjustments: a mechanical adjustment, which is the preload, and hydraulic adjustments, which are the compression and the rebound. Usually you always start with the mechanical adjustment, which is the preload. If you sit on a bike according to your weight and you have, for example, if the fork is bottoming while braking, you need to increase first the preload and the compression. If it's not enough, you need to reduce the air chamber. If it's still not enough, then you need to increase the spring rate, which means you need to change the spring, but this has to be done by a specialized mechanic. So you need first to sit on the bike to see if the fork it's bottoming. It's bottoming while braking, because you see usually the standard bike had this problem. If you're braking very hard and you're very heavy, if you have, let's say, 100 kilos plus gear, then you risk yourself to bottom the front suspension. So most of the riders were increasing the preload. If increasing the preload is not enough, then you need to increase the compression. Then if this is still not enough, you need to go to reduce the air chamber. This is the third step. And then if it's still not enough, you need to change the spring rate. This is what Andreani is recommended. So these are some recommendations for the suspension setting. The next one is if the fork is moving on fast corners. So you take a fast corner and the fork is moving on these fast corners, you need to reduce the preload, reduce the compression. If it's still not enough, you need to reduce the spring rate. So first, to understand how the suspension is working, you need to feel the bike. You need to be able to feel the bike. And to feel the bike, you need to ride, especially off-road, at a different skill level. To be able to know what type of setting you need to adjust. So if the fork is moving on fast corners, reduce preload and reduce compression. If the fork is harsh on a bumps, if it's too harsh on a bumps, you need to reduce the preload and increase the rebound. Now this is the recommendation. Of course, from my tutorials, which I saw from many tutorials, rebound, it's the last setting which you want to adjust. First, adjust the preload, the compression. If this is not enough and the bike it's harsh on the bumps, is moving too fast on the corners, then after compression, after preload and compression, then at the final stage, at the final adjustment, you adjust the rebound. Then there is another feedback which you need to check it on the bike. If the bike is going wide on corner exit, so if the bike is going wide on a corner exit, you need to reduce the preload and increase the rebound. If the fork is vibrating on brakes, so if you're braking and the fork is vibrating, again, you need to increase the preload because it's too soft. Increase the preload and increase compression. So these are some suggestions for the setting which this manual is containing, this Andreani fork manual. So as you see already, the first setting is the preload. The mechanical adjustment needs to be done. Then you move to the hydraulic adjustments, which are the compression and the rebound. Let's speak in detail about the spring preload. The spring preload allows adjusting the static downstroke. This is the static sag, which you need to adjust before, and some parameters of the motorbike geometry, such as height of the front, the steering angle, and the trail. So the preload, it's a pretty important setting. You need to adjust it to establish the sag, which means how much the fork it's compressed while you're sitting static, the static sag, which needs to be about 25% of the fork travel, of the suspension travel, about 25-30. I'm gonna get the numbers, the exact numbers, factory numbers from the Honda Transalp, and I'm gonna make a separate video about it, because usually the static sag should be about 30% of the suspension travel, front and rear. As noticed, when I sit on the bike, I've already sit on the bike, and I saw it, the sag, it's just perfect. I haven't measured it exactly, but it's very balanced. So the suspension is compressed no more than 25-30%, which is pretty good. So first you need to adjust the preload, establish the static sag correctly. The adjustment is made by using a 17mm open-ended wrench on the hexagonal adjuster on both top caps of fork legs. As I told you before, these are the adjustment points. With a 17mm wrench, you can adjust the preload. Pretty simple. To increase the preload, you need to turn the adjuster clockwise and vice versa counterclockwise to reduce it. To reset the standard adjustment, turn the adjuster fully counterclockwise, then turn clockwise for the number of turns required to reset the standard setting. It is recommended to perform fine-tune adjustment one turn at a time, equivalent to 1 millimeter of preload. So you take it step by step. This is the most important. Don't put everything, don't put it clockwise or counterclockwise to the end. Take it step by step. We are still at the front fork and we're moving to the hydraulic settings. It is recommended to perform hydraulic adjustments after having suitably adjusted the spring preload. Very important. The rebound adjustment allows to control the speed with which the suspension extends again after a compression. So we need to see, depending on the surface we're riding, if we're riding on a very flat surface, then we just need a very fast rebound in order to take over faster, because the surface is very straight and maybe has some small rocks or everything. We need a very fast rebound. On the contrary, if we're riding on a forest and we have a lot of slopes, a lot of potholes, big ones, then we don't want a very strong rebound. We just want a soft rebound, so we will be able to control the bike, and we need this soft rebound in order to have the bike very stable and not to throw us in the handlebar some shocks and getting out of control of the bike. The adjustment is made by using a 3mm Allen wrench on the adjuster on the left side of the fork. So here we have the rebound on the left side, as you can probably see. The adjuster is identified by the letter R placed in the proximity. Here we have REB from rebound. So REB from rebound is very simple. This is it. To increase damping, turn the register clockwise, vice versa counterclockwise to reduce braking. To reset the standard adjustment, turn the adjuster fully counterclockwise, then turn clockwise for the number of turns required to reset the standard settings. So it is recommended to perform fine-tune adjustment 1/4 turn at a time. So step by step, everything, it's 1/4 at a time, in order to, to make the adjustment step by step. Here we have in the middle this, we can use a 3mm Allen wrench to adjust the rebound. The same here on the right side for the compression. Compression adjustment, this is quite important. Compression adjustment allows to control suspension downstrokes, which can be caused by track morphology, deceleration, braking, load weight changes on the front. So together with the preload, compression goes together with the preload, of course, and established the adjustment according to the track morphology, deceleration, braking changes, load weight changes on the front fork. So the adjustment is the same, is done by using a 3mm Allen wrench on the adjuster on the right side of the fork, on the brake lever side. It's identified, as mentioned before, with the comp, is written comp over there, so you can know that it's compression. To reset the standard adjustment, turn the adjuster fully counterclockwise, then turn clockwise for the number of turns required to reset the standard setting. So it's the same. It's also recommended to perform fine-tune adjustment 1/4 turn at a time. So preload, compression, rebound seems pretty easy, and you need to ride the bike, you need to feel the bike, you need to have some skills to learn and to read the feedback of the bike, the feedback of the surface you're riding, and then you will be able to adjust properly the suspension. What I need to tell you, and I'm gonna continue also with the downsides or with the negatives of this type of suspension. Let's start with what I think is very important, is the maintenance of this suspension. Usually, if you're riding this bike off-road exclusively on competitions, Andriani says that you need to make the maintenance every 6 hours, which is incredible, right? So if you're riding this bike as a professional, as a racer, with this suspension, you need to make the maintenance every 6 hours. If you're riding this bike as a super sport, whatever this means, then 10 hours. And if you're riding, let's say, as a road bike, as an adventure bike, maybe 50-50 on-road, off-road, they say 15,000 kilometers is the service interval for this type of suspension. But you need to adjust this mileage, this maintenance mileage, you need to adjust it according to your riding style. If you're riding more than 50% off-road, I would say in my case, I suppose I'm gonna make the service at 10,000 kilometers maximum, because I would like to keep this suspension as long as possible. I want to enjoy as much as possible its benefits. So 10,000 kilometers will be a proper maintenance interval in my actual riding style. If I make, let's say, a long motorcycle travel and perhaps I'm riding mostly on road, then I might be lucky to reach 15,000 kilometers without any issues with the front suspension. We're speaking about only the front suspension. This was it for the front. Let's move to the rear, to the Öhlins. Now let's move to the rear suspension, to the Öhlins shock absorber, the racing version of the Öhlins. We're gonna check it out because there are multiple versions of the Öhlins shock absorbers designed for racing, designed for road use. So it's better to make a difference, to somehow separate them, and we're gonna see what type do we have. So many of Öhlins suspensions are high pressure monotube type shock absorbers. The fluid is put under gas pressure, and the gas and the fluid are kept apart by a separating piston. The piston is usually fitted in an external reservoir connected by a hose or fixed directly on top of the shock absorber. This is how do we have it. This is picture number 3. In some models, everything is fitted inside the main shock absorber, like it's in figure number 2. A few shock absorbers are of emulsion type. Oil and gas mix inside the shock absorber, like is in the picture number 1, and this is an emulsion shock absorber. This is the type of the shock absorber from Öhlins. The fluid is pressurized by nitrogen. The pressurization prevents cavitation of the fluid and the shock absorbing action is therefore more even. The external reservoir also contributes to better cooling of the fluid, giving longer service life for the fluid as well as the components. So this is the purpose of this external reservoir. Like we have actually number 3. It's called external piggyback reservoir. This is the type of suspension what we have here. The road suspensions are usually external reservoir with hose connection, and which they are much easier to adjust. But we have, as mentioned before, a racing shock absorber, and of course we've changed the spring. The spring is custom placed. This is not this suspension, it's custom made. It's from Öhlins, but it's custom made. The spring was Marco decided to put this spring, which is a 95 Newton watts or 95 Newton meter spring. This is according to my weight and according to the riding style. He decided to put a stiffer spring for the rear, and of course we've chosen this external piggyback reservoir. The code I will tell you right away, the code of this suspension. Öhlins shock absorbers with external rebound adjustment have an integrated temperature compensation. As the temperature increases and the fluid flows more easily, the flow is controlled accordingly. The shock absorbing effect is therefore independent of the temperature. The more advanced models permit individual adjustment of compression and rebound damping. Öhlins shock absorbers provide the possibility of adjustment, making them adaptable to most vehicles, drivers and ranges of use. All of the shock absorbers with springs have adjustable preload of the spring action. In our case, to adjust the preload, because we usually start with the preload as the first adjustment, we have provided in the package, we have 2 C-spanners. These 2 C-spanners are allowing us to adjust the preload. As you can see, the space, it's pretty narrow here. What I've did, even when I've adjusted the preload on the standard shock absorber, on the standard suspension of the Transalp, I've removed the oil, the rear oil recipient, the brake fluid recipient. I remove it in order to protect it when I've adjusted the preload. The same happened here. It's the space is pretty narrow, but you can do it with a little bit of luck. You have 2 C-spanners provided, and on the top side you can see you can adjust the preload with these 2 C-spanners. And we need to turn clockwise to increase the preload and counterclockwise to decrease the preload. Before adjustment, use penetrating oil W40 or similar on the threads to prevent them for damaging. And there are different type of spring preloads adjustments. As you see, we have the C-spanner, but there are also hydraulic adjuster, there are integrated hydraulic adjusters, mechanical 3-step adjuster and mechanical adjuster. So there are multiple types, 5 types of spring preload adjustment at Öhlins. So we have the C-spanner, the C-spanner type. We have a hex screw and the slotted center screw. The hex screw, if we turn it, we have to turn it if we would like high speed. So for high speed, we turn the hexagon screw, and for low speed, we turn the slotted center screw. We turn clockwise to increase damping and counterclockwise to decrease damping. So in terms of compression damping, we have compression, but compression for high speed and compression for low speed. 2 types of adjustments when it comes to compression damping for this Öhlins racing gas shock absorber. Here are the instructions. We have type number 4. As you can see here, it shows On type number 4, how to adjust on top of the reservoir, high speed, low speed, clockwise to increase damping, counterclockwise to decrease damping. And what's left? We're left with a rebound damping. Rebound damping controls the energy absorption when the shock absorber is being extended and controls how fast the shock absorber returns to its normal position after being compressed. The rebound damping adjuster turns the wheel on the piston shaft above the end eye bracket. Turn clockwise to increase damping, turn counterclockwise to decrease it. So this one, it's pretty simple. Let's check it out. So this one is positioned underneath here. You can see it. It's this one. We need to rotate it clockwise and counterclockwise in order to adjust the rebound. On the right side, I think you can see it much better in terms of rebound adjustment, where it's placed. All right, the access, it's much easier from the right side. Everything, it's quite narrow here, I must admit. If I will have to adjust it, everything, it's quite narrow, especially regarding the preload and even for the compression. But the compression, it's okay, you take it step by step with a proper key. Here with the rebound, you need to make it by hand. And yeah, these are the adjustments for the rear. What is very nice from Olin's service manual in comparison with the Andriani, they give you a recommended adjustment range, rebound and compression damping about plus minus 5 clicks from the original, from the basic setting. When you set up your bike, you need to do it together with a front fork. And on all types of tracks that you want to optimize, there is no setup that will be 100% perfect for all tracks. This I already told you at the beginning. You need to compromise, you know, you need to make a compromise. And the priority should be safe feeling, stability and comfort. And man, I'm grateful because at my first ride with this suspension a few months ago, this was exactly what were my feeling as described in the first video. Safety, stability and control. I felt very safe on the bike. I have a lot of confidence. The bike was very comfortable even at high speeds on the off-road 80-85 kilometers per hour. I even reached those speeds. If you have a good feeling for the bike with the spring preload and the ride height feels good, but the bike runs low and packs down under acceleration bumps with lost line and or lost comfort and traction, open the rebound adjuster 2 clicks. If the bike is nervous and moving a lot or has a high feeling entering corners, close the rebound adjuster 2 clicks, fine-tune 1 click at a time, test run and make it the necessary adjustment. For original rebound settings, see the mounting instruction for your shock absorber. So I'm grateful that this suspension came out of the box already adjusted. I have time to ride it. I have time to ride this bike with the perfect setting, at this point of my riding skills. I'm grateful that SESTAMARCIA provided me this suspension settings out of the box. I repeat, out of the box. It gave me a lot of time to improve my skills, a lot of riding time to develop my skills and to enjoy at the end the ride. Olin's also provides some general setup for the compression damping. If the bike feels soft, unstable, is using too much wheel travel and you have the perfect spring for you, close the compression adjuster 2 clicks. This will control the wheel during acceleration more, plus it will help ride height and falling through the stroke too quickly. If the bike feels high, has bad grip at throttle opening and feels unsmooth over small or medium bumps during acceleration, open the compression adjuster 2 clicks, test run and make necessary corrections. These settings are necessary when you receive the standard suspension from Öhlins. This will help you somehow create a personalized setting and helps you start the bike with the basic settings for compression, for rebound and for preload. What you need to keep in mind is pretty simple. If the vehicle feels unstable, soft, low is bottoming, increase compression. If the vehicle feels harsh, hard, has bad grip, decrease compression. So these are the settings for compression and the feedback and some actions from your side. They are also explained here on the general settings. Here for the rebound. In terms of rebound, if the vehicle feels unstable, loose, bouncy, increase the rebound damping. If the vehicle feels hard, bumpy, decrease the rebound. Before you even start making these adjustments, before you even think about making any adjustment on the compression, on the rebound, on the preload, man, it's so important to know your bike. It's so important to ride your bike. It's so important to have some proper skills to ride off-road and to listen to the bike. It's very important. Listen to the bike. Listen to what feedback gives you, and at the end, even if you are a beginner rider like I am, for sure you will be able to adjust perfectly your suspension. It will not be perfect for all type of roads. Many of you have asked me how does the bike feel on road. Okay, you have a proper setting for this suspension off-road. How is the bike on road? Surprisingly, the bike feels very good on road, very good. And I was riding in the last month 70% on road and only 30% off-road, and I can say I have the perfect compromise so far on road with off-road. I have to be honest, I haven't used the cargo bag. I'm expecting 10 or 15 kilos more on the car with the cargo bag, so perhaps I need to increase just a little bit the preload then. But until then, I'm keeping these settings. I'm gonna ride without adjusting, with the 10 more kilos on the rear. Let's see, I would like to see the bike's behavior, and most likely I'm gonna increase a little bit the preload when I will ride with the cargo bag. The same playground as I've used at the beginning of my off-road trainings, but now we're at the middle of October and there's a different landscape over here and a different bike. We have a different bike, completely different bike now. The bike is more stable and confident provider. You know, but there's also a limit, and this is the rider's limit, the rider's skill limit. In my case, beginner. This is the word. This is the skill building in progress. Oh,
I'm not feeling the rear bouncing like I saw it before, like I've ridden before in this type of road and with my standard suspension, and I saw the rear bumping like crazy. The rebound was crazy. I saw it also, I saw that also on my drone footage. I saw the rear how it was bouncing pretty good, pretty much, and this was making the bike very unstable at higher speeds. But not this one. This suspension is pretty stiff and comfortable, and it's perfectly adjusted at this point for me at this time. Let's check out this one. Oh, very good, very good. Now the bike becomes much fun to ride, I admit, but it's also a mental thing. When you have this type of suspension, when you feel more confident, from here comes I think also the skill. You have the more courage, more confidence to approach different surfaces at different speeds. Wow, check out there. It's very difficult to stay in control of the bike and also speak, because all your focus goes to this off-road riding. Wow. Thanks God I found this playground. It's not very hard off-road, but at least I can practice a little bit at my skill level. Many of you will say this is easy, but believe me, it's not as easy as it looks. The brakes are very good. The tires, man, are very helpful, very helpful. I have how much? About 3,000 kilometers with these tires, but still plenty of meat. Even you feel easier on steering. It's a little bit easier Maybe I've learned quite something, or it's because of the suspension, I don't know, but I can definitely say it's more stable. I made the jump. I made the jump, but no one was there to film it. Oh, my first jump actually. Wow, but that's a different story, man. Different level of suspension. You don't need to be a professional to realize this. You can easily make a wheelie. I put the power to 2. Usually I was riding off-road with the power out, with the power 1 out of 4, but now I've chosen to put 2. I just needed a little bit of extra power on a hill climb. Oh. The bike basically sticks to the ground, sticks to the surface. This I can tell you. And you feel that you can push it, but you know it's up to everybody's skill. Just to say hi to this beautiful cow. Hi there. You know, I love cows. Even here I'm feeling confident. A lot of potholes, you don't know what to expect underneath. Some of the potholes are quite deep. Very technical section here. Nice. More and more garbage, even on these beautiful hills. It's a big pity. So no pothole can cause you problems with a 250 millimeters ground clearance, 230 millimeter suspension travel for the front, 197 for the rear. The bike, it's suited for off-road riding, no doubt about it. And with this Andriani and Öhlins upgrades, suspension upgrades, this bike, it's like a beast. Of course, it's not in the hand of a proper, you know, a proper professional rider, but still a casual rider can ride this bike and enjoy. I feel the bike very light somehow. I don't know, maybe I got used with it. But I feel it that it's pretty light. quick shifter, it's sometimes useful when gear shifting here on such terrain.
I stopped a bit for resting because it was a little bit exhausting riding on this field. I'm gonna explore a little bit more, but so far, man, I can tell you with my hand on my heart, you can believe me or you can't believe me, it's your choice, but for me this suspension, it's perfect so far. We can see here how much did it worked. You can see we still have something left. You see, this is how much it worked so far. Still plenty of space, plenty of travel until the bottom. And I was riding pretty fast, even 85, 90. Okay, it's not a surface which can call it hard off-road or something, but still this was it. And for the rear it's pretty stiff, pretty stable, and yeah, it was amazing. I would love to continue riding if you don't mind.
I feel the bike so small now, maybe because I'm confident, maybe because I'm used with, maybe because I put the power to 2 out of 4, I don't know, but the bike feels very light right now. I know that it's not light, but it's anyway lighter. I still have some nice upgrade to add. I still have some upgrade thankfully to the Facebook group. I met someone there who makes an amazing workcraft. He has a workshop and it's making a incredibly nice accessory for the Honda Transalp. I'm gonna make a separate video about it. I've usually used the second gear, especially for uphilling, but the third gear will do just fine. Another downhill and then comes the uphill.
It was quite a nice ride. Of course, there are some disadvantages when it comes to this racing suspension. I need to be honest with you and tell you everything, because this is normal and this is the way I make my reviews. Of course, there is positives, there are positives, plenty of positives, and plenty of advantages when it comes to upgrading the suspension, but there is also some disadvantages. Some may consider big disadvantages, some may consider not so big. We're speaking first about the maintenance. The maintenance for this front suspension, as mentioned before, it's you need to make the service at maximum 15,000 kilometers if you're riding on road. If you're combining off-road with on-road, depending on how difficult your off-road is, the maintenance schedule, it's decline and it's lower, so you need to make it perhaps at 10,000 kilometers or even faster, depending on how much you're using this bike off-road. This we're speaking about the front suspension, the Andreani race cartridge. As you see here, we have not so much until we have plenty of travel until we are reaching the top, the bottom of the front suspension. Although I was riding quite fast, but check it out, plenty of travel left until we're reaching the bottom. So approximately 10,000, 15,000 kilometers if you're lucky. In terms of maintenance, a faster maintenance will make this suspension work for longer time. The maintenance is not so difficult. I mean, replacing the oil, cleaning the seals, replacing the seals, replacing the oil should not be a big issue if you are considering the advantages which this suspension is offering. When we're speaking about the rear, we have Öhlins racing shock absorber and spring, and here we have about 30,000 kilometers in terms of maintenance. Here we have a higher maintenance schedule, but that's depending a lot on how much stress you're putting to the suspension, and of course need to be checked. It needs to be checked periodically. So for the rear we have a higher maintenance schedule in terms of kilometers, about 30,000 kilometers. So I say if you're using this bike really like a 50-50 off-road, 50% on-road, you can expect 15,000 kilometers for the rear maintenance schedule, and maybe under 10,000 kilometers for the Andreani. Another downside of the suspension is that now we have, let's say we have a bigger ground clearance. We have 250 millimeters. Check it out. Now we have the bike on the original side stand, and we've increased the ground clearance to 250 millimeters measured. So it's quite high. You don't have to worry that you will hit a big rock or something, or you can pass some bigger obstacles with this higher ground clearance. But as mentioned in my previous video, there is a downside regarding the positioning on the bike, once, and second regarding the side stand, which you need to upgrade the side stand because it's too short. You need a longer side stand adapted to the new numbers, to the new suspension. You need a bigger. I saw that Altrider, it's providing an adjustable side stand for the Honda Transalp. And you will be able to adjust it accordingly to the new bike's height. The new suspension needs another side stand. And another thing which you need to consider, the central stand now it's somehow useless, because you can put a bike on a central stand, no doubt about it, but the rear wheel doesn't spin. You cannot make the maintenance. You need to lift more the bike. I was trying to make this side stand longer, to weld and make an to adapt it, but it's quite difficult. It will be too big, and it could hit here this swing arm, and I need to make, perhaps you know someone who makes custom made longer side stand adapted to this new suspension, because now the bike stands on the side stand, but it's if you push one finger, you risk the bike to fall left or right side. So I'm gonna keep for the moment the side stand as a protection, as an additional protection. If I'm not finding a solution, then I will remove it and find another solution to lift the bike in case of a flat on or in case I need to lubricate the chain. But this is the reality. The side stand, I can use it maybe on a higher surface, place it on a higher surface, and maybe with the hole on the rear I can spin the wheel and make the maintenance or take off the wheel, or maybe I need it in my trips. But yeah, this is it. Side stand, main stand, now they are somehow you need to replace them. And the positioning on the bike. Now I will show you how I will sit on the bike. How am I sitting on the bike? I need to learn a new technique of moving my feet, my left and right feet accordingly, to stabilize, to be more stable on the ground, to put my feet on the ground more firmly. And I prefer to have one foot completely on the ground than to stay with both of my feet on my toes, because now I'm standing with my toes on both feet. But the technique is to use to put completely the feet on the ground for better stability, and to be able to stay with the bike, stay on the bike more firmly. Also, you need to consider when you're gonna stop off-road. You cannot just stop anywhere, because if you have a slope here or you have a different uneven surface, you risk to, because now the bike it's much higher, you risk to fall on left or right side. And yeah, this is a reality.